upload a few people to watch these videos. This is going to be pretty darn short, because there's not really a lot that change in the hotfix that they made. There's really only two things that matter too much, but they also don't really matter at all, if you really think about it. But Kaze stance, which is his all guard, can be done 200 milliseconds after an attack on lights and heavies. It used to be different for lights and heavies. It's always 200 milliseconds, so you can get into that a lot faster, which I would think would probably be good for team fights. It wouldn't really be applicable in 1v1s, because you could already do things like this. There we go. Where you can just all guard like stuff like Nusha's deflect, which is pretty much the fastest attack you're gonna get. What's that? I think it's like a little more than 300 milliseconds or something. But you know, Nusha's deflect still isn't unblockable, so you can just do things like that. Only against Nusha though, you can't do it against Zerk. I feel like you may have been able to, because they sped up how fast you can actually go into Kaze stance, but they also made it so the light from Kaze stance actually has guard break vulnerability. It used to have 0, now it has 100, which isn't really a huge change, but do it from like neutral to try and stop guard breaks, at least react to it. I mean, you probably still might be able to on PC, I don't really know, but on console you can really do it anyway. This bash now moves forward a little bit more, which is pretty cool. Stop deflecting. It moves forward 2 meters instead of 1 meter, which isn't really a huge change. It might be better in team fights, but if you whiff something like that, then you may actually be able to hit your bash. It doubled the range, but 2 meters still isn't really a ton of distance, but I guess it doesn't really need to be because it's a chain bash. But it makes it so you could target swap the bash a lot better. Another thing you can do is now target swap the light after the bash, which it always comes from the same side, always comes from top. It does 15 damage, which is decent, so you might be able to like tag someone if they're like really low in HP, but knowing this game's targeting system, it's probably not going to happen. It's a little bit of a weird mix-up, because if you have a character that has a deflect, you can kind of just like dodge forward. The thing is, like, if he couldn't like act afterwards, then you'd pretty much just try to parry on heavy timing, then just throw the top heavy through, because then if he tries to hit you, then you parry it, and if he tries to hit your teammate, then you get a free top heavy, but he can go straight into Kaze stance like that. So instead, you'd pretty much just want to do the same thing. Either it'd be a lot easier if you had a deflect. The timing's the same on top anyway, so it's not like it's gonna be harder than a parry. But you know, you got your if they try to target swap it to you, then you get the deflect or the parry. And then if they target swap to your teammate, if you tried to deflect and they didn't do it to you, you can just guard break if you think they're going to go into Kaze stance. And if you threw the heavy and you think they're going to go into Kaze stance, you can just feint it into a guard break. It's not really a super useful mix-up, really, because you know, you still gotta act out of that crap. So if you don't pretty much instantly go into the light or the zone afterwards, you're probably gonna get guard broken out of it. Unless you have revenge, I guess, because you don't have guard break vulnerability in revenge. They made so the light from Kaze stance is less damage, which don't really know why they made it only do 8 damage. I guess it is kind of like a light that guarantees technically 18 damage then, which is still not very good. And it uses a crap ton of stamina, which they did make his stamina drain a lot better for the lights, the Fujin cuts, because now each of them do 3 stamina instead of doing, I think it was 6 each. Maybe it was like 6, 6, 12, can't remember, but Fujin cuts now actually deal a normal amount of stamina damage to yourself, which is, you know, pretty cool. Fujin cuts still aren't really going to be used for anything other than someone's really low and you want to really get that damage, because they still do take a decent amount of stamina for only dealing 10 extra damage. They, you know, 9 stamina for 10 extra damage. Normal light's gonna do like 9 for 12. It's, what I'm trying to say is it's not really that worth it, because you also have Fujin Force, because, you know, that extends your chains. It is reactable, but if you're playing the game casually, you'd probably want to use Fujin Force in pretty much every scenario. You'd obviously want to mix up the number of Fujin cuts you do so that it's not like too predictable. The thing I'm trying to say is that Fujin cuts just aren't really amazing. The only thing they're really good at is stalling people while they're in revenge, or stalling someone like in a team fight or while you're ganking someone, so that your teammates can get like a free hit off, because Fujin cuts do take a while. Like, as soon as you hit someone from your all guard, your teammate can pretty much just react to that, and then just throw like a top heavy, and just get free that. They say they changed the trajectory on things. They said they made the top heavy a lot easier to dodge, which I didn't see at all. You can still dodge like before the attack even starts, and it still would still dodge it. Like, it's still gonna, you can still dodge even before it starts, and it's still gonna miss like that. And the direction doesn't matter either. Like, I'm dodging into it with the trajectory of how it was. If you dodge too late, obviously it's gonna hit you. And that might be what they're talking about, but I'm pretty sure that's just the deflect frames. Because there's 66 milliseconds where you don't have iframes, because that's where you would deflect for characters that actually do have deflects. Oh yeah, the light no longer has a guard break. It has guard break vulnerability now, so you can't just like hit someone out of a guard break as easy. By that I mean the light from here. There's really no reason for me to demonstrate it, because I'm not going to be able to react to it on... Whenever I say console, again, I mean old gen consoles. There's just way too much delay for anything. But the light now has 100 milliseconds of guard break vulnerability instead of 0, which is pretty cool. It's not going to make too much of a difference, other than maybe you won't be able to react to guard breaks with, and then just throw a light on PC. Maybe you still will. Maybe some people will. Who knows? But overall, not really a lot changed. The main things to look out for are stamina. It now takes a lot less stamina to do your Fujin cuts, so you can actually use them more without running yourself out of stamina, because I know I saw a lot of Kyoshins running themselves out of stamina just trying to use Fujin cuts. They're honestly not worth it, like, at all. Because it's just 10 extra damage, and there's so much stamina. But with this patch, they might actually be worth it, because the damage to stamina isn't really that bad. The other thing, I guess, would be in team fights, is just being able to target swap the bash, which, again, I can't show. The follow-up after the bash, I mean. Being able to target swap that, as well as being able to easier target swap the bash itself, because it has twice as much range, so you might actually be able to hit someone if you target swap it. If someone does a chain bash on your teammate, just guard top. Or you like try to parry it, try to deflect it, whatever, because they might end up target swapping it. I would think people might do it for a little bit until they realize it's better just to get guaranteed damage instead of just getting light parried while they're in revenge, but for now people are probably just gonna do what's new, and then it's gonna be pretty cool. But overall, not a ton of really worthwhile changes happened. It's kind of just, they wanted to make a hotfix based on probably just stuff that Freeze said. It's like, oh, this doesn't have guard break vulnerability. This doesn't have any guard break vulnerability. We need to change that. It's like, okay, well, that changed nothing. It's like, oh, you can't target swap the light after the bash. That sucks. And it's like, oh, changing that changed fuck all. It's like, if you want to actually make the character better, you can't just make stupid ass changes that do nothing like that. I feel like the thing that would make him, I guess, better would be add more things that you can do if you end with Fujin Force, instead of just being able to cancel directly into your all guard. Probably make it so you can maybe dodge cancel, or you can just cancel into a standing attack, so that you're not forced to go into your all guard every single time. Because it's either you throw Fujin cuts and then you're at frame disadvantage, you throw Fujin Force and you go back into your all guard. There's no in between. You can't go into anything else other than your all guard, so you're kind of just forced to spam your all guard over and over again, or lose your turn. So people are obviously just going to spam their all guard, and I feel like that's the main thing that needs to be changed. Because if you make it so you can actually act after you finish with Fujin Force, even if you do it after Fujin cuts, which I feel like, actually that might actually give Fujin cuts something to do, because right now Fujin cuts are pretty much worthless. I guess after the added less stamina drain, they're a lot better, and also nerfing the initial hit makes it so it does more than double damage. But let's say like after you finish with like a Fujin Cuts string, let's say you can like dodge cancel or something, or you can just go straight in like a standing attack, which might be a little bit too much. But maybe after like you finish with Fujin Cuts, then you can go into like a chain finisher, like an unblockable, or you can like go into your bash. I feel like that'd make the character just a lot better, have a lot more flow, because right now the only flow you really have is from Fujin Force, which is reactable, and it only flows into your All Guard, which makes the character just so much more clunky, and you're kind of just sitting there, which I doubt that's what Ubisoft wanted from the character. You're kind of just confined to one space, and you just kind of hope that you keep getting your All Guard. It'd also be nice if there was, I guess, a better thing that you could actually do from your enhanced lights. Nope, it's not a thing. I guess it doesn't really need to be a thing, but I feel like Kyoshin, especially with how they laid out their feats, is supposed to be a character that's made for like using crushing counters, because his first 3 feats are about crushing counters. So you'd think that they would do more with his crushing counters instead of just giving him like a normal one. The crushing counters are good and all. It adds a little bit of damage to your light instead of doing 12 it does 17. And it can just, you know, stop other attacks with just a light. It's the same as parry timing, except you use a light instead of a heavy. So it's very easy to use and just gives you that little extra damage. Brings you straight into your chains, stuff like that. It can be used on off guards. Crushing counters, they seem like they'd be really good, but they're just really underutilized in the game. There aren't really a lot of characters that like actually have a reason to use them. Because whenever I think of crushing counters, I usually think of like Valkyrie, but she has a deflect that would just be better for that. I guess it's the pseudo deflect, but oh well. Warlord, his crushing counters would actually be pretty good. But I feel like the parry riposte that people just don't use a lot, that stuns people, is probably better anyway. Let's see. Crushing counters just aren't really used a ton. Wardens is really nice because you get an extra light, which would actually be a pretty cool idea. You get a crushing counter and then you get like another attack off it before you go into your chains. Kind of like Warden. Like he gets his crushing counter on top, he gets an extra light, and then he can go into it, because the crushing counter doesn't actually count as the first hit in his chain. It just counts as kind of like a chain starter. I don't even know what to call it. But I feel like they just need to do more with the crushing counters. They need to make it so you can actually go into either a dodge attack or just a standing attack after you end with like Fujin Cuts or Fujin Force, so you're not just locked to your All Guard whenever you're in chains, because that makes the character just really, really boring. It also makes him very unfun to fight against, because you kind of just sit there and then get spammed. On PC, obviously, it's less of a problem because you can't really use Fujin Force without someone seeing it from like a mile away. On console, it's a little bit harder, but obviously it's still reactable. It's 600 milliseconds, but that's pretty much as fast as a light would be before CCU. Actually, probably a little bit faster, because they kind of hit indicators for like 100, so the animation's going to be worse. But not a ton changed. The stamina changes are nice. The ability to target swap's going to add a little bit more mix-ups in team fights. But I would definitely like to see some more like actual like changes to movement and flow, instead of just making it so it's easier to use like stuff that's really spammy that doesn't actually help you very much. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.